Hey, what's up guys? Today's video is on the book Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Jocko and Leif are both retired Navy SEAL officers, and what separates them from most leaders is that they've led people in life and death situations. When in the battlefield they have to make split-second decisions, and the consequences of their actions can mean the difference between a SEAL making it home or being killed in action. They understand that to lead, you have to be clear about the objective, you have to trust each other, and you have to be accountable. So let's dive into some of the lessons from the book. First and foremost, in order to lead and win, you have to have the right mindset. Lesson 1 is all about extreme ownership. As they say in the book, on any team, in any organization, all responsibility for success and failure rests with the leader. The leader must own everything in his or her world. There is no one else to blame. The leader must acknowledge mistakes and admit failures, take ownership of them, and develop a plan to win. So that's what this book is all about. You have to own it. You can't pass the buck. You can't blame anyone else. You have to take responsibility for it. And then another good quote, the best leaders don't just take responsibility for their job, they take extreme ownership of everything that impacts their mission. So you are responsible for the success and failures in your job and in your life. The boss, product, economy, and competitors are not to blame. When a subordinate isn't doing what they should, you need to look at yourself first. It's up to the leader to ensure that subordinates are properly trained, have the resources, and have a clear understanding of the mission. Now, if the subordinate continuously fails to meet the standards, then the leader must be loyal to the team and the mission above the individual. So as you can see, it's all on the leader, extreme ownership style. And as Jocko says, such a leader, however, does not take credit for his or her team's successes, but bestows that honor upon his subordinate leaders and team members. The next big lesson is, there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. As quoted in the book, leadership is the single greatest factor in any team's performance. Whether a team succeeds or fails is all up to the leader. The leader's attitude sets the tone for the entire team. The leader drives performance or doesn't. When a leader takes on the attitude of blaming someone else for their shortcomings, guess what? The peers and subordinates and all those people around you pick up the same attitude. Additionally, it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. If you accept subpar performance and no one is held accountable, then that will become the new standard. Standards and the consequences for not meeting them must be enforced. I'm not talking about ruling with an iron fist, but leaders have to drive standards in a way that enables and encourages the team. As a leader, you must strive for improvement, give honest assessment of themselves and their teams, identify weaknesses, and come up with a plan to overcome those obstacles. In short, the mindset starts with the leader and spreads to each of the team members. Eventually it becomes the new standard. And lastly, don't tolerate infighting within your team. Pull the team together and focus their efforts on a single specific goal. Next, a leader must believe in the mission. It's vital if you want to inspire others to accomplish that same mission. If you ever get a task or a mission that you don't believe in or don't understand, don't just sit back and accept it. Ask questions until you understand why it's important. At that point, you can believe in what you're doing and you can pass that information down the chain to your team with confidence. Next, you need to check the ego. As is quoted in the book, for leaders, the humility to admit and own mistakes and develop a plan to overcome them is essential to success. The best leaders are not driven by ego or personal agendas. They're simply focused on the mission and how best to accomplish it. So how many times have you seen a boss or a peer pass the buck, make excuses, blame others, and be unwilling to take advice? Probably a lot. It takes a lot of courage to admit shortcomings, that your way isn't the best way, and to take advice. So, set the example and be the person who's willing to say, I was wrong. Personally, I admire people who take this stand instead of blaming, because blaming is easy. Lastly, be humble. So those first few lessons cover the mindset aspect, and now we're going to move into part 2, which is the laws of combat. The first one is all about teamwork. We all have to work together and support each other toward a single purpose. I'm sure you've witnessed someone blaming or talking shit about another section or department. That needs to go. We need to work with the people in other departments instead of using them as scapegoats. You can't operate independently or against each other. As quoted in the book, it falls on leaders to continually keep perspective on the strategic mission and remind the team that they are part of the greater team and the strategic mission is paramount. The next one is keep things simple, right? If your team isn't doing what they need to do, look at yourself first. Did you communicate the mission, the plan, the objective as clearly and simply as possible? It has to be clear enough so that the lowest member in the organization understands it. Not only does this make you more flexible in reacting to change, but it also provides more job satisfaction because members will now know why they are doing what they're doing. They'll understand their role in the big picture. Keep communication simple and allow for an environment that allows subordinates to ask questions that clarify duties and tasks. The next lesson is prioritize and execute. Even the most competent of leaders can be overwhelmed if they try to tackle multiple problems or a number of tasks simultaneously. The team will likely fail at each of those tasks. Instead, leaders must determine the highest priority task and execute. Problems and challenges can compound in a snowball effect, and as a leader, you must remain calm and make the best decision possible. And the SEALs have a saying, relax, look around, make a call. As a leader, don't get lost in the details. In order to prioritize effectively, you must focus on the strategic picture. Ensure that you pass situational awareness both up and down the chain. This ties into the next lesson, which is decentralized command. It's impossible for a leader to really manage hundreds of people, so the team must be broken down into manageable groups, teams within teams, with a clear leader in each group. The junior leaders at this level must be empowered to make decisions at their level, and as I said, they have to understand the plan to be able to make sound decisions. There needs to be trust and confidence in both junior and senior leaders for this to work. Decentralized communication only works effectively if everyone is passing information up and down the chain. Leaders and junior leaders shouldn't have the mindset of asking, what should I do? They should have the mindset of, this is what I'm gonna do, because I understand what the overall intent of the mission is, and that allows every leader to work separately, but at the same time toward a centralized goal. And then part 3 of the book is all about sustaining victory. The first lesson is plan. Again, a mission must be clear and concise. The overarching mission guides every small action, so it's important that leaders at all levels understand the mission's purpose and desired end result. So when developing a plan, lean on the subject matter experts and get input from down the chain. This not only creates innovative ideas, it also creates a sense of ownership, buy-in, and understanding of the plan for those on the front lines. Leaders must do their best not to micromanage. Instead, they should focus on the big picture and look for holes and weaknesses in the plan. Encourage your troops to ask for clarification if needed, if they don't understand a plan. You have to create that kind of environment where they feel comfortable bringing that stuff up and not just acting blindly on what you're saying or what you're telling them to do. Next lesson is on leading up and down the chain. So you gotta ask yourself, are you informing your leadership on what you really need in clear and simple terms? Did you effectively communicate the impact, including second and third order effects of the shortfall? The person with the best justification, explanation, and impact usually gets the resources. The next lesson is on decisiveness amid uncertainty. So you want to be proactive, anticipate as best as you can. Leaders must make the best decision they can based on the information that they have. You'll never have all the information, so just do the best you can. As situations evolve and new information becomes available, be flexible enough to adjust as needed and don't become fixated on a particular plan. Use your experience and knowledge to make the best educated guess. People respect leaders who can be decisive enough to make tough calls with limited information. Alright, and the last lesson is discipline equals freedom, and I'll leave it with a couple quotes. The best SEALs I worked with were invariably the most disciplined. They woke up early, they worked out every day, they studied, they practiced. Just as individual excels when he or she exercises self-discipline, a unit that has tighter and more disciplined procedures and processes will excel and win. Jocko says, discipline starts every day when the first alarm clock goes off in the morning. The moment the alarm goes off is the first test. It sets the tone for the rest of the day. The test is not complex. When the alarm goes off, do you get out of bed or do you lie in comfort and fall back to sleep? If you have the discipline to get out of bed, you win. You pass the test. If you're mentally weak for that moment and you let that weakness keep you in bed, you fail. Though it seems small, that weakness translates to more significant decisions. But if you exercise discipline, that too translates to more substantial elements of your life. And then there's a little bonus at the end of the book. It's called the dichotomy of leadership. So as a good leader, you have to balance many contradictory qualities. So you have to be confident but not cocky. You have to be courageous but not foolhardy. You want to be competitive but a gracious loser. Be attentive to details but not obsessed with them. You want to be strong but have endurance. You want to be a leader and a follower. You want to be humble but not passive. You want to be aggressive but not overbearing. You want to be quiet but not silent. You want to be calm but not robotic. You want to be close with the troops but not so close that one becomes more important than another, i.e. favoritism. You want to be able to execute extreme ownership while exercising decentralized command. So yeah, it's very complex. You have to strike a balance that works for you and your team. Anyways, that's it guys. It's a great book, so go ahead and